Hello and welcome back to Moonlit Journal. This week I was originally planning to film my Q&A video, but I ended up getting so many questions, which thank you so much to everyone who submitted questions for that. But I got so many questions that I think I'm gonna need more time to sit down and film that video, and unfortunately right now I'm just low on time in general. So I thought instead I knew I wanted to take you through all of my May pages. So this week we're gonna just do a flip through of all of my May pages. I really enjoyed filming my first flip through video for April, which I'll link in the cards here if you haven't seen it. That was a lot of fun. I really find it kind of therapeutic, honestly, flipping through my pages and reflecting on them. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear my washing machine in the background. Unfortunately, this is the only time I have to film today, so I hope the background noise isn't bothersome. I apologize. Okay, let's just get right into it. This is the start of my May pages in my Hobonichi Cousin. I mentioned in April that I really wanted to take a different approach to my monthly cover page in May. Because this is what it looked like in April, and I wasn't a huge fan of how it turned out. It just looks really busy and chaotic to me, and I think it's because for April, I just basically collected ephemera throughout the month and stuck it on here almost like a cork board of sorts of all of the things that I picked up in April. There's no cohesion to it, and I'm someone who is really aesthetically driven. Like, it matters to me that my notebooks look visually pleasing. And so I just found this a little chaotic. So I knew for May, I wanted to try out a mood board of sorts, almost like a Pinterest board for the month and how I've been feeling going into the month and during the month. So I decorated this page sometime in the middle of May, after I kind of got a sense of how I'm feeling this month. You can see here, I just compiled a bunch of pictures from Pinterest, some washi tape and stickers in my collection. And then I also wrote myself a little note, almost like a reminder or an intention for the month. I guess this gives a good sense of my mood this month. The little note that I wrote to myself says, "May you feel at home in your own body. Do not forget that you are alive now. Remember your breath." All of this, when I'm looking at it, gives me a really good snapshot of how I was perceiving my life this month. I truthfully struggled a lot in May. Health-wise, I am currently in a period of burnout, struggling with that, feeling kind of stuck sometimes. And I think when I'm particularly burnt out, I tend to feel less connected to my body. I think that is related to my autism, to be honest. The mind-body connection, it's impacted in ways that are honestly mysterious to me. Basically, I spent a lot of time in my head and not enough time in my body in May. And I'm trying to be mindful of that and kind of remedy it if possible. So that's the cover page. I think visually this is still chaotic for me. Like, I still don't really like the look of this page, and it just makes my brain feel really jumbled when I'm looking at it. So I think for June I might take a different approach again. But it's been fun to just experiment in this book and try different things every month. Like I've said in previous videos, I'm just treating this journal as a creative outlet and allowing myself to experiment and not take it so seriously and just try different things in here. If there's something that I really enjoy, then I'll carry it forward. And if there's something I don't really like, then I'm glad I tried it, So anyway, moving on to the first entry of the month. I have had this image saved on my Pinterest for years now, and it's always a nice reminder whenever I see it. It has a picture of a panther in the fog, and it says, "You're more powerful when calm." And that says it all. I completely agree with that. I just needed to remind myself of that because I found that work anxiety always makes me more reactive. And I don't mean in like how I express myself or how I speak or anything like that. It's more that I feel this sense of urgency when I'm stressed out, and it's self-imposed. So I just need to remind myself that even as things get stressful at work or it feels really difficult, that I can still take my time, and I'm more powerful when I approach things from a place of calm rather than reactivity. On the next page, we had family visiting this weekend. So I was just writing about taking them out and around LA, getting some yummy food. We got some tsukamen, which is like the Japanese dipping noodles. It was delicious, so I just found this really cute picture on Pinterest and wrote about it. And while this was a really fun day and really fun weekend, I've just found that it always takes a toll on me the next day. Like, no matter how much fun I have and how energized I feel in the moment, when I'm out all day, and especially in overstimulating environments, it will always take a toll on me. And so the next day I'm just writing about how tired I felt, how drained I felt. Okay, I'm gonna have to blur this page. Here I'm talking about traveling to San Francisco. So I think I mentioned before, I had to take a work trip at the start of May. I live in Los Angeles and I had to travel to San Francisco for a couple of days. I think it was like 5 days. And so here, this was my travel day. I wrote about how the travel to San Francisco was pretty emotional for me, surprisingly. I wasn't expecting that, but I'm originally from the Bay Area. I grew up really close to San Francisco, and so I would consider that my hometown in many ways. And so it was weird now, after having lived in Los Angeles for almost 5 years, it was weird going back to San Francisco and not being a local anymore. I wrote here how, like, on my Uber ride to the hotel, I became acutely aware that I'm a visitor now and that this place is no longer my home. And it just felt really bittersweet. Like, I felt this immense joy to be back somewhere that instantly feels like home and feels really familiar, but then equally sad that that place is no longer your home, actually. It was a very strange feeling. I don't know, it was just this feeling of longing and homesickness. This is also one of the first pictures I printed with my Canon IV. In May, I got a Canon IV and I tested it out with a few pictures and I absolutely hated it. Like, I returned it actually because I'm just so unhappy with the quality. I understand that most people use it for the portability, and I get that. Like, it makes a lot of sense. It was really slim and compact and really easy to use, but every picture I printed with it, it looked completely different from the original, and I could never figure out how to edit it to get it more accurate. It was just so frustrating that I just returned it. I would rather continue printing at FedEx at that point, honestly. On this page, which I've blurred, I'm just talking about visiting my workplace in person. We have an office in San Francisco, and that's why I went in the first place, to finally meet a lot of my coworkers. And it was really nice to meet everyone, but also very overwhelming for me. I'm gonna have to blur this page too. And then I've covered this because I have a picture of myself with my best friend. But my best friend lives in the Bay Area as well. And when I say the Bay Area, that's kind of what we refer to Northern California as, and specifically Silicon Valley in Northern California. So that whole area. So the highlight of my trip was getting to see her, because we don't get to see each other very often, and she's truly my best friend in this world. So I'm so happy that I got to spend a whole day with her. We started off by going to this delicious bakery. It's called Arsicalt. If you're ever in San Francisco, I highly recommend you check it out, but they have the most delicious croissants. I got a chocolate croissant, and I forget what she got. I think it was an almond croissant. And so we started the day with that. They didn't have any seating though, so we kind of had to go sit in her car and eat, but that was fine. It was really delicious. And then after that, we went to the Japanese tea garden, which is one of my favorite places in San Francisco. It's so beautiful. I highly recommend you go if you're ever in SF. But they have a little restaurant, or I guess cafe, that's facing out to the nature. And it's so beautiful to sit there and just have some tea and cookies. So we did that for a while. I think we sat there just for like an hour and a half or 2 hours just catching up and drinking tea. And I brought out my passport traveler's notebook for this picture. I just thought it looked so beautiful. And then we got some fortune cookies with this, so I added my little fortune here. This was my last full day in San Francisco, so I was just writing about that. By this point, all of the overexertion, the social fatigue, the overstimulation from the past few days was really catching up to me. Like being on like that for days on end with no breaks really, really takes a toll on my body as someone who is autistic. And I think that's a little difficult for people to understand because it's all internal and it's invisible. But yeah, I think people are always surprised to hear just how much these things affect me and that it's not under my control, really. So this day was really difficult for me, honestly. I was feeling really unwell all day, but I still had to go into the office this day. So yeah, I kind of just pushed through and spent one last day with my coworkers in the office. This was a view from our hotel room, which was beautiful. My partner had actually also been in San Francisco this week. He was there for a design conference. So I kind of tagged along with him and used that as an opportunity to meet my coworkers in San Francisco. So we stayed in the same hotel together. Next, on the 9th, this was our travel day back home to LA. By this point, I was really feeling rough. Like, I started feeling sick. This was the start of when my cold was forming, which turned out to be really, really brutal over the next few days. But this is my boarding pass, and then I just put this little mini Super Sticker Club sticker of this bear crying because I was going through it this day. And then I just pulled off the little tag from my tea bag. Once I got home, I made some tea for myself. I really like the Yogi tea brand because all of their teas come with little affirmations and messages. So I always like to save the tags and put them in my journal. This was the weekend. May 11th was Mother's Day, so my sister and I had planned a nice outing with my mom on the 10th. On Saturday, we took her to a afternoon tea service, which was really fun. It's so like elaborate and everything looks so beautiful and pristine, and you get all these chocolates and scones and really cute little finger sandwiches, and you get to pick out what tea you want. And I love that kind of stuff. I love being pampered. So we had a lot of fun, but at this point I was actually like full on getting sick. So this is where I really started to feel unwell. And originally I thought that I was just having kind of a sore throat from just traveling, because sometimes that happens to me whenever I visit the Bay Area. I get sick for like a day and it just goes away. So I thought that by Saturday I would be completely fine. And as the tea service was going on, I felt gradually worse and worse. Had I known it was actually forming into a cold, I would not have gone out, of course. And then here, I just covered up a picture of me and my mom and sister here, but here I'm just writing about Monday, the 12th. So I skipped writing on the 11th because I was so sick. And then on the 12th, I'm just writing about how sick I'm feeling. Oh, and I was particularly sad this day because I couldn't take the day off work. I just had way too much to get done that I couldn't afford to take time off. And, you know, I'm not trying to complain. I know that I'm really, really privileged and blessed to have a job right now in this economy. It's really scary out there. A lot of people are out of work and really struggling to find work. So I never want to come across like I'm ungrateful. And that's, you know, that's precisely also why I still pushed myself to work despite how unwell I was, is that I am genuinely afraid of how bad the job market is right now and how just unstable everything feels in America. So yeah, I just want to say I'm very aware of how privileged I am, but my feelings are still valid. And this was a really, really difficult day for me health-wise. I finished up work, and then after that I went to urgent care to try to get some prescription medication to help me. More complaining about feeling sick. First of all, I love this picture of SpongeBob. This was exactly how I was feeling. And then I used some Cameo stickers. There's like a medical or like toiletries one that has really great stickers for when you're sick. But this is how I was feeling. I think it was just especially hard because I was already feeling so burnt out and run down from work and from traveling the previous week that I just felt like I didn't have a chance to recover at all. So this was a dark day, and it kind of continued until I was slowly on the mend. Over here I'm talking about how disoriented I felt that day. Okay, I love this spread so much. I love looking at this because this is when I inked up my fountain pen with Pilot Iroshizuku Tsukushi, which is sadly discontinued, I know, but I have had so much fun writing with this ink. It is probably my favorite ink at this point. I mean, I just find this tone of reddish brown absolutely stunning, and the writing experience is so nice. I mean, it just writes so smoothly. There's no inconsistencies in the flow, and thankfully it didn't bleed through at all. I was worried about that because the Pilot Iroshizuku inks tend to be really wet and quite saturated. So I was really happy to see that it played very well with my Hobonichi Cousin. So I really like this spread. I love the black and brown beige tones with the bronze stars. I'm just writing about the ink here. And then I was just talking about some thoughts about the universe and life. Sometimes I feel uncomfortable with how limited my view of the universe is. Like, I'll never really be able to understand its size or scale. My brain can't comprehend it. And it's weird to have that knowledge that I will never know something. Over here, I was just writing about wanting a new work bag. So I printed out some pictures of some bags that I've been interested in. This is the Polen Sim or Sime, I forget how it's pronounced. Been wanting this bag for a long time. This is the Songmont Your duffel bag, I think. And then this is the Samo Ondo utility bag. I have been eyeing all of these and I'm trying to decide which one I'd like to get. So I'm just writing about that here. But then I also go into how basically I find myself fixating and stressing about my wardrobe whenever summer approaches. And I've noticed this pattern every single year. I just realized how loud the washing machine is. I'm so sorry if you can hear that. It's like right outside my room. So I apologize. I know that's probably really annoying. As I was saying, I've just noticed I tend to fixate more on my style and my wardrobe as the summer approaches because I really hate the summer, to be honest. I hate the heat, I hate sunny weather, and I live in LA, so it's just a bad combination. And summer gets extremely, extremely hot over here, so I'm forced to kind of go out of my comfort zone and dress in a way that doesn't feel comfortable to me, to be honest. Like, I like wearing layers. I like being really comfortable and cozy, and I don't really like feeling exposed. And in the summer, you kind of have to be. I guess anticipating that is always, it makes me start kind of obsessing about my wardrobe, and a way for me to bring some joy back into the process is things like this, like researching cute bags that I could get. It brings some fun back into the process, and it gives me something more positive to focus on. That's kind of why I was writing about these bags here. This was just, and I'm sorry if I keep like repeating the same story, but I was drowning at work this day, and this whole past week was just the busiest week at work for the quarter for me. So I really rely on my journal to vent about that. It might seem unproductive to you, but to me it really helps, honestly, to get the feelings out on the page and to articulate how I'm feeling. It just helps me process the emotions, and it's almost like I'm able to remove some weight off my shoulders and just release it onto the page. So I find it really helpful to vent in my journal. Of course, if it's just straight up complaining nonstop, then that's not helpful to me. But when I'm able to just talk through how I'm feeling and make sense of it, it just helps me almost like interrupt that incessant loop of thoughts in my head and get it down on paper so that it doesn't keep repeating in my mind, if that makes sense. Over here, I think I was just feeling really, really burnt out from the week. And I was talking about how I'm feeling really restless, and I just have this strong feeling of isolation. I think it's also because I just had to be home all week to work, and I didn't really get to go out the house because I was sick, so I didn't get to go to the gym or my typical outings that I have through the week. And so I was just feeling really cooped up at home. I was also just feeling almost obsessive with my thoughts. There was a lot of rumination going on. I think it was just a lot of things converging at once. And so I added a picture here that just says life comes in phases, because I wanted to remind myself that while this phase feels really, really difficult and maybe hopeless at times, at the end of the day, it's just a phase and it's not going to last forever. Life is full of polarities where one phase might feel extreme on one end, but with that comes the possibility of an extreme on the other end. And I will eventually get to experience the flip side of this, which is joy and calm and comfort. And then that same day, like, I gave it a few more hours and I started feeling better after some time. And it truly goes to show that nothing really lasts forever, right? I wrote here, like, perhaps being alone in my room isn't such a terrible thing. I'm comfortable, I'm resting, which is what my body needs. It's nice to see me kind of going through the emotions and then kind of resolving them on my own in the same page. And then we came to the weekend, which was really nice. There was a pop-up bakery that we went to. They had the most delicious croissants, so this was a lot of fun. And then I also got to see my family this day, and we went on a really nice hike, and it was just what I needed after being cooped up all week. Just being out amongst the trees, and it was a foggy day, so the weather was perfect, and it was actually kind of rainy as well. So I had a lot of fun just being out in nature, and I was also listening to Sleep Token's new album, Even in Arcadia. So I put a little sticker of an album here. And this is also the day I reached 5,000 subscribers. So a big, big milestone for me and a really happy day. And then the next day, I was just writing about Even in Arcadia. I absolutely love it. I've been obsessed with this album ever since it came out, and I've been listening to it every day since. It's so good. Their work is just beautiful. I really appreciate how beautiful and poetic the lyrics are. It's unlike anything I've heard before. This spread you saw in my last video at my days at my desk. I included clips of writing out both of these, so I won't talk about this too much. I don't think I spoke about this one though as I was writing it, so maybe I can touch on that really quick. But I had finally gotten back into the gym after the past 2 weeks of traveling and then being sick. And I'm just talking about how I really want to get back into a more consistent practice of weight training. I used to be very, very consistent, and in the past few months, it's been a lot more irregular, and I really want to try to prioritize weight training whenever possible because I really just want to be strong. I want to maintain my strength, my mobility, my function for as long as possible. And so that is the motivating factor for me. And then I just wrote about how I was feeling beautiful this day, which was a nice feeling. It's interesting how we can see ourselves so differently day to day just based on our mood, even if nothing actually has changed about our physical appearance. And I just reflected on how, as I've gotten to know myself better and better as I've gotten older and learned more things about myself, I find myself more beautiful as a result. I'm really at a stage now where I'm tired of judging myself, and I just don't want to do that anymore. I want to love myself and care for myself and remember my body has overcome so much, and that makes it beautiful. So this was just a really nice body image day, I guess, because I was remembering those things. Okay, I think this is my favorite spread of this month because it's so different for me. It's so colorful and playful, and I don't know, it makes my inner child really happy. I had a lot of fun with this spread, and clearly you can see I was feeling better, finally feeling better after the past few weeks. And I had this desire to introduce color and brightness back into my life in a very childlike way, honestly. So this spread just makes me really happy to look at. And there's a couple of new things that I tried here that's kind of helped me evolve my journaling style in little ways. One of them is the change in the layout of the page. So typically when I journal, I kind of either journal across the page like this with one big column, or I do a 2-column page like this that utilizes the invisible line that Hobonichi has in all of the daily pages. And I just stick within those constraints. Once I see something like that, once I see a guideline on the page, it's really hard for my brain to move past that and work out of that guideline, if that makes sense. So even me doing something like this, where I did the wider column on the left side and the narrower column on the right side, was actually a big hurdle for me to move past mentally. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'm really happy to see myself being more open and free in how I'm using my journal over time. The other thing was I started using my dip pen to use some of my more colorful inks. I am so fortunate that I have a pretty large collection of fountain pen ink samples now because of my stationery friends gifting me samples, but I would love to use more color in my spreads. And I think a really fun way of introducing color is with fountain pen inks. Rather than inking up my fountain pens with different colors and then being forced to use that color until it runs out or constantly be switching out colors in my pens, I thought, why not just use my dip pen to write little blurbs in my pages, because I knew I wanted to just use them as accents and not necessarily for the long form journaling. So this was really fun to test out. I used the Dominant Industry ginger chicken sample that Allison gave me because I felt like the page could use some red, and I really like how it turned out. And what was really fun was then swatching the ink on the page directly. I think it looks beautiful. It does bleed through. So if you are gonna do this, definitely make sure you're accounting for needing to cover it up on the back, because the bleed through was insane. But I just love the way it looks, and I love how it makes the page nice and crinkly too. So that was really fun to test out here. And yeah, even incorporating something like this where I'm just sectioning off a little blurb in the page to write something completely unrelated to my journal entry, that was a nice addition as well. you'll see I kind of carry it forward in following pages. So I definitely was still in a very colorful mood. And I wanted to keep experimenting and trying new things. So over here, I made a collage with some stickers and washi tape and a Pinterest picture. And I love the way this turned out. I'm always really scared to place a lot of colorful things next to each other in one page because I never want it to be overpowering or clash with one another. But I think this turned out really cute and it's interesting. It feels like on these pages, I was exploring a different facet of myself that I haven't explored before in my journals. And it's nice for that side of me to come out on paper. I kind of think of my journal as a home, and every spread is a different room in this home. I feel like every room in my journal is an opportunity for me to express a different part of myself. But this was also another spread where I used my dip pen to introduce some color. This was using Birmingham Pen Co.'s Chrysanthemum, which I did an ink swatch of in my last days at my desk video. But I think this color is so interesting and so beautiful. And I thought it would go really well with this picture. So I just wrote a little blurb with that. This one was very different for me because I started by placing this image in the very center of the page. And I purposefully did that because I've never done that before. I've never started a spread with something in the exact center. I think it worked really well. I kind of started in the center and then built out from there with various stickers. These are printables from Erin Ware. This is from Megan Rhiannon. This is from my Hours Studio pet tape, my Yumi Kitagishi sticker. And again, I used my Birmingham Pen Co. Chrysanthemum ink here. And you can see I continued with the ink swatching on every page because I don't know, I feel like it really adds something special. It kind of ties together all the colors. It was also just fun for me to go look for colors in my collection that would complement the colors of the page. So this one was really cool because this is a blue ink, but it also has a lot of pink in it as well. So it was kind of the perfect combination of blue and pink to go with this image here. And this is Robert Oster Wind. This is one of the samples that Vera gave me. And I think it's beautiful. It ties everything together so well. And this is just a very blue and pink page overall. And it just so happened that I went to Levain Bakery this day, which their branding is completely blue. So it just went really well with the spread. Flipping through these pages makes me very, very happy. And they're super crinkly because of the ink swatches. Okay, we're nearing the end. Here you can kind of see like a mixture of my typical style mixed with the more colorful collage-y aesthetic that I had been trying out the previous few days. And I really like how this turned out as well. Still continued with the ink swatching. This was Pilot Iroshizuku's Inaho. I thought it would go really well with this green in this image, but this actually ended up being a lot more brown and neutral than I expected. But I think it still looks really good together. Over here, I am writing about the fact that I finally decided to tell my manager that I'm autistic. This was a really, really big deal for me, and it's a decision that I did not take lightly. There was a lot of thought and consideration and anxiety, honestly, about making this decision. And I was truthfully really hesitant to share because I never want to be perceived as incapable. And unfortunately, that is a really big fear for anyone who has a disability. There is a very real fear that the people around you are not educated or knowledgeable about the reality of your disability, and you can very easily be written off or wrongly perceived as incapable. And it's really sad. it's really sad that, that fear stops a lot of us from getting the help that we need and the support that we deserve. And so I fully recognize that, a lot of people don't feel safe disclosing to their workplace if they have a disability or if they have needs for any accommodations, especially in this job market right now and this economy. So I fully understand, that fear, and I had the same fear for a very long time, but I finally came to a point where it just wasn't sustainable for me to keep operating in the same way, to keep hiding my struggles and struggling silently and just constantly making my health and my body suffer as a result. To me, it was worth the risk of potentially getting treated differently. It was worth that risk because I couldn't keep hiding who I am, and I had to try to get the help that I need. So I ultimately chose to tell my boss, and I did that after knowing that she is an empathetic and compassionate and kind person. And so I'm very lucky in that way. And luckily she received it very, very well. And I do feel supported. I just felt like there was no benefit in me hiding that part of myself anymore, and that something had to change. So just reflected on that here, and it did feel very freeing. I do still have a lot of anxiety around it, but it does feel like a weight lifted off my shoulders, and like I'm not alone in my struggle, and that I have someone who is looking out for me now. On this page, I was just writing about gratitudes. Every now and then, I like to be really intentional about writing what I'm grateful for. And then down here, I've been listening to Chromacopia again, so I was writing about that a little bit. This day, I caught up with Allison, and so I wanted to just cover up some of the things that we spoke about. But it was so nice. I love Allison. It's really nice to have a friend who is also a content creator, who understands a lot of the things that I am experiencing, and it's just really nice to be able to relate to each other. I added some really cute Yumi Kirigishi stickers. And yeah, I was just kind of talking about YouTube, and then that brought me into talking about how happy I am that I have something in my life that I love so much, which is journaling and stationery. I think the most valuable thing you can get out of life is love. Having things in your life that you love, having people that you love, having people that love you. I love journaling, and I love making YouTube videos. I really, really enjoy filming and editing. It's become surprisingly one of my favorite things to do. So yeah, I just wanted to remember that pure source of joy. And then on this page, I started by saying I was watching a video by Rajiv Surendra. He started his video, I think it was like the journaling and stationery, journals and pens that he loves and uses often. But he started the video by singing an old Tamil movie song. And Tamil is a South Indian language. It's actually the language that my family speaks. So I was surprised to hear him singing a song in Tamil at the start of the video. And yeah, he talked about how old Tamil songs are so beautiful and poetic, and I just really, I don't know, it made me very, very nostalgic. It made me think about my family, and it just made me think of my grandparents. It reminded me of a song, an old classic song that my mom used to sing, and she would tell me that her parents loved that song. And I never met my mom's parents. They both sadly passed away when she was young. So his video just, it reminded me of that, and it made me very, very nostalgic, and it made me think of my grandparents who I've never met. And I talk about how I missed them dearly, even though we've never met, and how that's so interesting, how we can miss people that we've never even met before. Like, we feel tied to people or to places even sometimes that we've never been or experienced or met. And I just find that so interesting. And I don't know, I feel like for some people, their families are their soulmates. And I definitely feel like I'm one of those people. I feel like my soul is tied to my family. We're very, very close. And yeah, it was just a very interesting feeling, that feeling of longing for something that I've never known. I'm curious if any of you can relate to that feeling or you know what I'm talking about. And that brings us to the end of May. Again, similar to April, it just so happened that I journaled all of the days in May. And that it kind of lined up perfectly. Because again, I'm not holding myself to any rule that I have to journal every day. I did have days where I skipped journaling, but then I also had days where I wrote on multiple pages at once. So it just evened out somehow. Something interesting that I noticed is that I didn't commonplace at all in May or in April even, I don't think. I've kind of stopped commonplacing, which is really weird because it used to be such a huge part of my journaling practice. So I don't know what that's about, and I definitely want to try to get back into commonplacing a bit in June. So I think that might be a little goal I set out for myself this month. Overall, May was a challenging month, but I got through it and I'm feeling so much better, and I'm really excited for June. I have a lot to look forward to. I think this video has already gotten extremely long, so I'm gonna end it here. I don't think I'll show any of my weekly spreads, just because it looks the same as my last flip through. I've been using my weeks in the exact same way. It's pretty boring. I just use it for my work to-dos. Not much new to update you on there. I guess I could really quickly just show you how the May calendar turned out. So this is my May calendar. I watched a lot of things in May. I would say the highlight was Sinners. I absolutely loved Sinners. It was such a good movie. And I didn't read anything this month, which is really disappointing. I don't know why. I've just been in a huge reading slump. So that is another goal for June. That is everything I wanted to share today. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video wasn't too long, and I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to hear in the comments how May has been for you. How was your journaling practice this last month? Did it change or evolve at all in ways that you didn't expect? Happy June. I hope this next month treats you really well. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.